Imagine, for a moment, a state in which time dissolves, where your consciousness transcends the present moment, and everything around you seems to align perfectly. This is the flow state, an experience that goes beyond mere concentration and delves into the realm of spirituality. At its essence, flow is a gateway to the sublime, a space where we cease to be mere observers of the world and become integral parts of it. Flow is not just a psychological phenomenon, it is an invitation to an intimate encounter with our purest essence. Just like in practices of meditation and mindfulness, the flow state pulls us away from the incessant tide of thoughts and worries that often invade our minds. It is like active meditation, where the focus is not only on the breath but on complete surrender to an activity that absorbs us. In this space of surrender, the ego, with its fears, anxieties, and limitations, dissolves, giving way to a union greater than our individual being. This union with the activity, this being present in its fullness, echoes the spiritual traditions that have long pointed to the importance of living in the present moment. The impact of flow on daily life is profound and transformative. When we surrender to flow, what once seemed difficult or tedious gains a new color, a new depth. Daily tasks cease to be obligations and become opportunities to experience the beauty of the present moment. Like a dance between mind and spirit, flow enables us to perceive that every moment of life holds a potential for transcendence. Upon reaching this state, we feel a deeper connection with everything around us, a connection that is not merely intellectual but resonates within our emotions and spirit. Flow is like a reflection of our ability to let go of control and simply be. When we stop fighting against the present and embrace what it offers us, we begin to see flow not as an exception but as a spiritual path, a return to our natural essence that has always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. The flow state is, at its core, an expression of the natural harmony that permeates the entire universe. It is like an invisible thread connecting our mind, body, and spirit to the vastness of the cosmos. When we are in flow, we are not just performing a task, we are becoming one with it. This feeling of integration resonates deeply with many spiritual and philosophical traditions. Ancient cultures, such as the Taoists and Buddhists, often spoke of being one with the activity, a concept that essentially describes the experience of flow. The Taoists in particular believed in the concept of Wu Wei, which can be translated as non-action or effortless action. This is not about inertia but rather a way of acting that is in perfect harmony with the natural movement of things, flowing with the current instead of fighting against it. The flow state is precisely that. There is no resistance, no friction. There is only total surrender to the moment, to the action itself, as if we are being carried by an invisible current that knows exactly where to take us. We can imagine flow as a river. The river does not worry about moving forward. It simply flows, gracefully navigating obstacles and finding its way naturally. In flow, we are like that river. Life becomes a dance with the environment around us, a cooperation where our intentions align with the forces of nature. Instead of becoming spectators or controllers of life, we become full participants, in sync with the universal movement that governs all things. This connection with the movement of the universe is the true essence of harmony. When we are in flow, we do not feel the separation between ourselves and the outside world. We are absorbed in the present in such a way that any sense of duality disappears. We are, at the same time, the observer and the observed, the river and the bank, the artist and the art. And it is in this union that we find peace, as we align ourselves with the natural course of things, where there is no resistance, only acceptance and movement. The flow state, therefore, is more than a moment of concentration. It is a return to what is natural, to what is in tune with the universe. By finding this harmony, we are able to experience a sense of belonging, as if we have finally found our place in the grand web of life. We are no longer separate or alienated, we are part of a whole, moving in perfect sync with it. The magic of the flow state, while profoundly spiritual, can also be understood through the lenses of modern science, which offers us a fascinating explanation of what happens within our brain during these moments of complete immersion. There is something deeply poetic in realizing that science, with all its precision and objectivity, can also help us understand an experience that, for many, is the pinnacle of transcendence. During the flow state, our brainwaves change. The brain activity, often caught between rapid thoughts and superficial anxieties, enters a different rhythm known as theta and alpha waves. These are states associated with deep relaxation and meditation, a kind of active peace. It is when we are deeply present and simultaneously completely relaxed. The mind is not divided among different thoughts or worries but focused and united on a single point of attention, like a flame burning steadily without flickering. Neurotransmitters like dopamine, norepinephrine, and endocannabinoids are released during flow, creating a feeling of well-being, lightness, and full presence. This chemical cascade is what makes us feel so connected, so immersed in the experience, and has a direct relationship with the states described by mystics and meditators for millennia. In a way, we can say that modern science is finally catching up to what ancient traditions have always known, that there is a state of consciousness in which we feel profoundly at peace, completely immersed, and simultaneously open to something greater than ourselves. These neurotransmitters also contribute to the feeling of transcendence that often accompanies flow. They make us feel as if time has stopped, as if the self, that ego constantly worrying about the future or regretting the past, has dissolved, leaving only the present moment. Neuroscience shows us that, in this state, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for self-reflection and judgment, decreases its activity. This is what allows us to let go of self-criticism and surrender completely to the activity we are involved in. Modern science, therefore, corroborates ancient teachings about elevated states of consciousness. The language may be different, the tools may be new, but what is revealed is the same universal truth, that within each of us lies the capacity to access a state of unity and peace, where the separation between the self and the world dissolves. Neuroscience, by explaining the mechanisms behind flow, does not diminish its spiritual beauty. On the contrary, it reveals it as something inherent to our biology, a door that is always present, connecting us with the divine. Thus, we can view neuroscience as a bridge, a complement to spiritual understanding. While the spiritual shows us the way beyond the ego, science explains how this path is traveled within us, in a physical and tangible manner. Together, these two approaches provide a comprehensive view. Spirituality gives us the experience, and science gives us the understanding. And so, flow becomes a journey that is both inner and universal, a meeting point between what we feel and what we are capable of understanding. The flow state is also a powerful ally on the journey of self-discovery and the development of emotional intelligence, aspects that, when intertwined, bring us closer to our spiritual essence. Emotional intelligence is not just the ability to understand and manage our emotions but also the capacity to find inner harmony, to be compassionate with ourselves and others. Flow, by its very nature, helps us cultivate these qualities as it teaches us to be present, to let go of judgment, and to deeply connect with the experience of the moment. When we enter flow, excessive control and rigid ego begin to dissolve. This dissolution opens space for a genuine acceptance of who we are in the moment, an acceptance without rush, without external expectations. The practice of being in flow is, therefore, a practice of self-mastery. The flow state teaches us to be masters of our emotions, not through force or repression but through understanding and surrender. It is as if the very act of surrendering to the task we are doing frees us from fear and anxiety, feelings that arise from our constant desire for control. Traditionally, many spiritual philosophies speak of self-mastery and self-acceptance as paths to enlightenment. Flow places us on this same journey, where we are called to dive into the present and, in doing so, accept who we are without the need for resistance or immediate change. Being in flow is, therefore, a practice of deep self-acceptance. It is letting go of expectations of what we should be to experience who we truly are in the moment. This is something that spiritual traditions such as Buddhism have emphasized for centuries. The path to inner peace passes through the total acceptance of the present. Self-awareness techniques like active meditation and introspection are gateways to the flow state. Active meditation is often a less formal practice but equally powerful. It can be as simple as taking a mindful walk, where each step is felt, or painting without thinking of the outcome, simply enjoying the texture of colors and the movement of the brush. These practices draw us inward, teaching us to listen to ourselves and feel what truly happens within our mind and heart, without distractions. Flow helps us develop emotional intelligence by placing us in a position of surrender and connection. When we are fully engaged in something, we are less likely to get lost in negative or reactive thoughts. Anger, fear, and frustration, which often result from a divided and confused mind, lose their strength when we are present, when we surrender to the flow of what we are doing. This surrender allows us to access a deeper place within ourselves, a place of peace and clarity that, ironically, has always been there but that we often overlook amid the noise of daily life. When we learn to surrender to flow, we begin to develop a new relationship with our emotions. We no longer need to fear or suppress them. Instead, we learn to feel them fully and let them go without attachment. It is the natural movement of things, feeling and releasing like the waves of the sea. And it is in this movement of feeling and releasing that we discover the true spirituality of flow. A spirituality that does not deny our humanity but embraces it, that does not shy away from emotion but welcomes it, allowing each feeling to be a passage to a deeper understanding of ourselves. There is immense beauty in realizing that the extraordinary does not need to be separate from the mundane. The flow state invites us to look at the small activities of daily life and transform them into something sacred, into a kind of ritual of connection with the present. Just as a Zen monk focuses fully while sweeping the temple floor, we can find meaning and depth in every act we perform. This is the essence of living fully, to realize that what we often consider trivial can become a doorway to a spiritual experience. Imagine washing the dishes. At first, a routine task, perhaps even tedious. But if you allow yourself to be completely present, paying attention to the temperature of the water, the softness of the bubbles, the sound the plates make when they touch, something changes. Suddenly, that common activity transforms into a kind of meditation in action. This is the Zen concept of moving meditation. The idea that each moment can be an opportunity to be present and connect deeply with what we are doing. There is nothing else, just that instant. And in that instant, you are completely whole. Cooking can become an act of love, not just for the food that will be served but for the process itself. Chopping vegetables, smelling the spices, observing the transformation of ingredients in the pot, all of this, when done with attention and surrender, can become a form of prayer, a meeting with oneself and the present. Similarly, tending to a garden, touching the earth, feeling the wind, and noticing the growth of each plant serves as a constant reminder that we are all connected, that the cycle of life manifests both in nature and within us. These everyday practices, viewed through the lens of flow, become rituals celebrating life. By transforming the mundane into something meaningful, we are saying yes to the present, accepting it with all its peculiarities. We do not need to wait for great moments to feel connected or spiritually elevated. Flow teaches us that everything, absolutely everything, can be an opportunity to experience the sacred as long as we are willing to open our senses and hearts to it. The secret lies in intention and surrender. If we cook, wash dishes, work, or exercise with the intention of being fully present, of finding beauty and purpose in what we do, we will be living in flow. And by doing so, we realize that every activity of the day becomes a bridge to a fuller, more conscious life. The simple becomes grand and our existence gains new meaning. It is this transformation of the mundane into the sacred that allows us to live fully, finding small moments of transcendence amid the chaos of daily life. We do not need exotic environments or elaborate rituals to feel connected to the spirit of the universe. The magic of flow lies in realizing that spirituality is available here and now, in every breath, in every movement. By seeking flow in all activities, we cultivate a life that is simultaneously simple and profound, a life where each moment carries the potential to be lived with reverence and presence. Life inevitably presents us with challenges. There are moments of pain, frustration, and uncertainty that test our ability to remain at peace. The flow state, however, is not something that only happens in perfect moments when everything is aligned. On the contrary, it is precisely in difficult moments that we can learn to access it as a transformative resource. For this, resilience and self-knowledge become essential tools, allowing flow to be not just a momentary state of pleasure but a profound path of spiritual and emotional strengthening. Resilience in this context is not simply about hanging in there or resisting suffering. It is a spiritual process of acceptance and growth. True resilience involves opening up to the experience life brings us, whether pleasant or painful, and finding within ourselves the space to welcome it. The flow state can assist us in this. When we are in flow, our minds do not fixate on suffering or problems. They surrender to the moment, to the challenge before us, finding a way through difficulties, not around them. Flow shows us that each challenge is also an opportunity for growth, a chance to know our limits and eventually expand them. To access the flow state in moments of adversity, we need to cultivate self-knowledge. Knowing who we are, understanding our emotions and thought patterns allows us to recognize when we are deviating from the present. Introspection techniques, such as journaling or guided meditations, can help us identify what prevents us from entering flow. Often, it is our expectations, our past grievances, or fears about the future that block this capacity. Recognizing this is the first step to dissolving them and allowing flow to happen naturally. Spiritual traditions often speak of the process of surrender, of accepting what we cannot control and finding peace amid storms. This surrender is also a key component to achieving the flow state in difficult times. When we face situations we cannot change, we can choose to sink into resistance or accept, like the river that flows around a stone in its path. Flow is not about avoiding challenges but facing them with presence, without our minds clinging to fear or the desire for control. In this process, we discover an inner strength that we may not have known we possessed. The adversities we face are, in fact, opportunities to deepen our self-knowledge and spiritual practice. Each challenging moment calls us to look within and find what is out of harmony. By accessing flow, even in difficult times, we discover a peace that does not depend on external circumstances. It is a peace born of acceptance, of total engagement with the present, and of the understanding that, as much as we may not be able to control everything, we can always control how we choose to respond. Thus, resilience in flow is learning to transform obstacles into allies, to see each difficulty as a chance to develop our ability to be present. It is realizing that life is like a dance, with its light steps and challenging moments, and that in every step, we have the opportunity to be fully connected, fully present. Flow, in this sense, is a practice of faith, a steadfast faith in the present moment and in our capacity to navigate challenges with courage and surrender. The flow state is not a fixed point but a cycle that unfolds in phases, reflecting the very nature of life. Understanding flow as a cycle is fundamental to incorporating this philosophy in a harmonious and sustainable way. This cycle teaches us about the alternation between effort and rest, between challenge and surrender, and about the beauty of the moments that prepare us for the next step. Just as the seasons of nature follow one another continuously, flow also has its phases that, when understood, become a reflection of a life lived with depth and purpose. The cycle of the flow state begins with preparation, which is the moment when we dedicate ourselves to learning, exposing ourselves to new knowledge, and accumulating experiences. This phase is essential, as it is where we cultivate the skills that will enable us to face challenges. It is like planting seeds in a garden, knowing that one day they will grow and bloom. Preparation is the foundation, the fertile soil where our abilities take root. The next phase is the challenge. In the flow cycle, challenges are seen as opportunities, not as obstacles. This is the stage where we need to expose ourselves to the unknown, to venture beyond our comfort zone. It is here that the magic of flow begins to manifest. The challenge must be significant enough to capture our attention and engage us, but not so overwhelming that it paralyzes us with fear. It is a delicate balance, like walking on a tightrope, where each step requires focus and brings us closer to a deeper experience. When we reach the flow state, we are in a phase of transcendence. Everything aligns. The skills we have developed meet the right challenge, and our attention merges entirely with the present moment. At this stage, there is no duality, no distraction. It is a perfect dance, a state of union that transcends time and space, where the mind and body work in complete harmony. We feel that we are in the right place, doing exactly what we should be doing, in a way that feels almost magical. After flow comes the recovery phase. Just as day follows night and summer follows winter, the flow state also requires a period of rest. This phase is essential for us to integrate the experience, absorb what we have learned, and allow our body and mind to recuperate. It is a moment of contemplation, appreciation, and preparing the ground for the next cycle. This pause is necessary for flow to return with renewed strength, just as a field, after being cultivated, needs to rest before being seeded again. This cycle of the flow state is, in fact, a mirror of life itself. The alternation between preparation, challenge, transcendence, and rest reflects the natural flow of existence. Just as nature has its seasons of growth, blossoming, harvesting, and resting, our lives also move through cycles of learning, overcoming, connection, and reflection. Accepting and embracing these cycles is a way to live in harmony with the world around us and with our own inner self. Living in tune with the cycle of the flow state means recognizing that we do not need to be constantly in motion, constantly in pursuit of productivity. There is beauty in rest, in pause, in the moment of observation and learning. Just as the tree allows itself to lose its leaves in winter, we must learn to respect our own cycles, knowing that each phase has its importance and role in our spiritual journey. The flow cycle teaches us, therefore, about impermanence and the beauty of each phase of life. It shows us that the pursuit of flow is not just a quest for peak moments but for a life lived in harmony with the natural rhythms of our being. By living according to these cycles, we allow ourselves to grow, blossom, rest, and begin anew, in a constant cycle of spiritual evolution and renewal. The flow state, when truly understood, is not merely a fleeting moment of connection or ecstasy. It is a philosophy of life, a way of existing that prioritizes presence, surrender, and constant engagement with the present moment. To live in flow, we need to cultivate an attitude towards life that goes beyond the search for specific moments of immersion. We actually need to make flow part of every choice, every breath. This integration transforms flow from a rare event into a continuous state of being, a lifestyle that liberates us from anxiety about the future and the weight of the past. Stoic philosophers spoke of the importance of accepting the present, of dealing with what is within our control and letting go of what we cannot control. Living in flow is, in a sense, a modern application of this philosophy. When we are in flow, we are fully committed to the present, without worry about what is to come or regret for what has passed. The complete acceptance of now is an act of freedom, an act of courage, for it is in this moment that we find the power of transformation and realization. The present is the only place where we can truly act, grow, and be. Integrating flow as a lifestyle means living with intention, seeking what makes our hearts vibrate, what connects us deeply. In a world full of distractions and external expectations, living in flow is an act of spiritual rebellion. It is choosing to value what is true and authentic to us rather than following conventions or worrying excessively about what others think. It is a return to our own essence, an expression of what we are in our purest form, without masks, without distractions. Living in flow also means accepting the impermanent nature of all things. It is understanding that what matters is not the final outcome but the process, the journey we take. When we surrender to the present and the process, we free ourselves from the obsession with results and the shackles of perfection. We come to see life as a journey, where each step holds significance, where each experience teaches us something valuable, regardless of the outcome. This leads us to a lighter way of existing, where we allow ourselves to learn, err, and evolve without the constant weight of self-criticism. Moments of flow, therefore, become moments of internal excellence, not because we are seeking to be better than others but because we are seeking to be the best version of ourselves at that instant. There is no comparison, no competition. The flow state teaches us that excellence is internal, a reflection of being completely engaged in what we do, delivering our best without external expectations. It is an act of presence, of love for what we are doing, and of respect for the moment we are living. Living in flow invites us to appreciate the beauty of the ordinary. The small moments of daily life, such as conversing with a friend, preparing a meal, or simply walking in a park, become opportunities for connection. Flow teaches us that we do not need to wait for great events or achievements to feel alive. Life, in its simplest and most genuine essence, is a gift. And by living in flow, we are accepting this gift with gratitude, allowing ourselves to experience each moment in its entirety. This lifestyle is a way to free ourselves from worries about the future and grievances from the past. By living in flow, we allow ourselves to be free, as we are living the present with intensity and purpose. There is no room for anxiety about what is to come, nor for regret about what has been. There exists only the now, and it is in this now that we find true peace, true happiness. The flow state, therefore, is not just an experience that arises in moments of extreme concentration. It is an invitation to live consciously, to transform every action, every thought, and every choice into something meaningful. Ultimately, living in flow is a journey of freedom, the freedom to be, to express ourselves, to live in tune with what is most authentic within us. The flow state is, for many, an experience of union with something greater, a journey that transcends the limits of individuality and connects us directly with the divine. There is something deeply mystical about flow, something that words struggle to capture but that the heart knows how to recognize. It is the feeling of dissolving the ego, the small self, which dissipates like a drop of water in the vast ocean of being. When we are in flow, we are not just executing an activity, we are, in some way, merging with the universe, losing our individuality and, paradoxically, finding a deeper connection with our essence. In many spiritual traditions, mystics and seekers have described experiences similar to the flow state as moments of ecstasy and union with the divine. These are moments when the perception of self dilutes, and the practitioner feels unified with the cosmos, as if there are no barriers between them and the whole. This dissolution of the ego is a fundamental characteristic of flow. By setting aside the incessant voice of judgment, criticism, and the desire for control, we open ourselves to an experience that is pure presence, pure connection. In this state there are no divisions. We are the dance and the dancer, the river and the flow, the creator and the creation. The notion of losing oneself to find oneself is a common theme in spiritual traditions, and it is also present in the flow state. To achieve flow, we need to let go of attachment to control. We need to lose ourselves in the experience to find ourselves more profoundly. This loss is not a negative abandonment but a full and conscious surrender. It is the act of releasing the ego, letting go of worldly concerns, and trusting that by surrendering completely, we will find something truer and more meaningful. By setting the ego aside, we find a freedom that allows us to touch something greater than ourselves. Compared to the mystical experiences described in various religions, flow also brings us closer to what is most sacred in existence. In Sufism, for example, the dance of the whirling dervishes is a form of meditation aimed at achieving spiritual ecstasy, a connection with the divine through movement. Similarly, when we enter flow, be it dancing, painting, writing, or working, we move toward the divine, connecting with a greater energy, with a presence that transcends the limitations of everyday life. In flow, we are able to experience the true nature of being, which is unity, communion, love. This sense of unity that flow provides reminds us that we are part of something greater, that life is, in essence, a vast field of interconnectedness. We are not isolated or separate. We are part of a web that connects us to the universe, to others, and to the divine. When we live in flow, we realize that the boundary between us and the world dissolves, and we become channels of expression for life. This is the deepest spiritual aspect of flow. It is not just about us and what we are doing. It is about becoming a vehicle through which the divine manifests. Thus, the flow state becomes a spiritual practice, a means of transcending the ego and approaching the essence of the divine that exists in all things. By losing the notion of the individual self, we make space for totality, for the beauty of interconnectedness. It is in this state that we perceive the sacred in everything we do, not as a distant concept but as a living, present experience accessible here and now. The divine is not separate. It is in every full action, in every moment of flow, in every conscious breath. Living in flow is, therefore, a way to touch the divine. It is a manner of aligning with what is truest and deepest in life, of realizing that by losing ourselves in the present, we find ourselves in the vastness of being. It is a journey back home, to a place where there are no fears or separations, only love and connection with the whole. The flow state is accessible to all of us, but to achieve it more frequently, we can rely on practices that create the necessary conditions for this experience to manifest naturally and spontaneously. Just as a gardener prepares the soil for their plants to grow, we can prepare our body, mind, and spirit to enter flow. By transforming this preparation into a ritual, we create a bridge between the everyday world and the spiritual dimension, where flow manifests as an expression of our purest essence. One of the most powerful practices to facilitate the flow state is conscious breathing. Breathing is always present, but we often forget to use it as a tool for connection. By focusing on the breath, we bring our mind to the present moment, distancing ourselves from the noise and worries that distract our attention. We can start with deep, slow breaths, feeling the air entering and exiting our body, like gentle waves on a beach. This simple practice of conscious breathing helps calm the mind and places us in a state of receptivity, where flow can manifest more easily. Another valuable tool is guided meditation and visualization. Before embarking on an activity that we wish to transform into a moment of flow, we can dedicate a few minutes to meditation. Visualize yourself performing the task with total surrender and lightness, without resistance, as if being guided by a greater force. Imagine flowing, like a river that naturally finds its way, effortlessly navigating stones and obstacles. This visualization practice not only calms the mind but also prepares our spirit for full surrender to the present moment, creating a clear intention to live that moment with all our attention and connection. The environment we are in also plays a fundamental role in facilitating flow. Creating a sacred space, a place where we feel inspired and focused, can make all the difference. This space does not need to be elaborate. It can simply be a well-organized table with a few objects that connect us with the present, like a lit candle, a plant, or an inspiring image. This environment helps us enter the flow state because it sends a clear message to our subconscious. Here is a place to be present, to connect, to give our best. This care for the environment is, in itself, a form of reverence for the moment, transforming the ordinary into the sacred. Another important aspect of facilitating flow is ritualizing the preparation for tasks. When we treat preparation as a ritual, we create a transition between the outside world, filled with distractions, and the inner space where flow happens. This ritualization can be something simple, like dedicating a few minutes before starting an activity to set a clear intention. For example, before starting to write, we can take a deep breath and mentally say, "I will surrender to this moment, allow the words to flow, and be fully present." These rituals of intention and focus help the mind align with the purpose of the activity, creating a natural predisposition for the flow state. Introspection techniques, such as journaling, are also powerful practices for facilitating the flow state. Dedicating a few minutes to write freely, expressing thoughts, emotions, or worries, can help clear the mind of obstacles that prevent us from being present. When we write, we draw from within everything that might be distracting us, leaving a cleaner and clearer space for total surrender to the upcoming activity. Finally, it is important to remember that flow is not forced. It is invited. The practices that facilitate the flow state are gentle invitations for our mind and spirit to be in harmony. By making these practices part of our daily life, we create an inner environment where flow can manifest more easily, where each activity becomes an opportunity for connection and expression of our best selves. And by living in flow, each moment becomes a portal to something greater, a space where we can feel the presence of the divine, where we can deeply connect with life. The flow state is, at its essence, a journey of self-discovery, a path that leads us to meet our own soul. By diving into flow, we are invited to explore the unexplored territory of our being, to access a level of connection and understanding that reveals not only who we are but who we can become. This journey is not about accumulating external knowledge or achieving tangible milestones but about navigating the depths of our interior, where lies the essence that makes us unique. Each time we access flow, we live a transcendent experience that frees us from the chains of ego and external expectations. In a world where we are often judged by what we have or what we do, flow invites us to a different state of being, where value lies in simply existing fully and connectedly. By surrendering to this experience, we leave behind the incessant need to prove our worth and begin to find meaning in every action, in every movement, in every small detail of life. This surrender is liberating, for it teaches us that we do not need to be more, do more, or have more to be worthy. Flow shows us that true wealth lies in the intensity of the present moment. Flow is also a mirror that reflects our strengths and challenges. By entering flow, we are confronted with our own capacity to handle the unknown, with the need for balance between skill and challenge. In these moments, we learn about our limits but also about our potential for overcoming. Each time we surrender to flow, we are placing ourselves in a position of growth, of expansion. It is a kind of internal rebirth, where we face our insecurities and discover that we are more capable than we imagined. This constant discovery is what makes flow a journey of continuous evolution, an ascending spiral of self-knowledge and spiritual development. The journey through flow also invites us to recognize and accept our vulnerability. To enter flow, we must be willing to take risks, to expose ourselves, to face the discomfort of the new and the uncertain. This openness is a profound spiritual practice, as it allows us to shed the armor we often wear to protect ourselves from the world. By allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we become more connected to our essence and, consequently, more connected to others. It is as if the flow state reminds us that by releasing our defenses, we find an authentic strength, a strength that is not in rigid control but in confident surrender to the moment. Flow is a path of spiritual growth that teaches us to value the beauty of the process. In a culture that often prioritizes results, living in flow is an act of silent revolution. It is not about reaching a specific end but about valuing each step of the journey. It is the way we learn to listen to ourselves, to respect our rhythms, and to connect with something that transcends our individual self. This greater something can be felt when we paint a picture, when we write a text, when we care for someone, or when we simply surrender to a quiet walk. Flow exists in the moments when we forget ourselves, when the line between being and doing dissolves, revealing the profound beauty of being present. At the end of this journey, we realize that flow is not merely a momentary experience but a lifestyle that connects us with the natural rhythm of existence. It teaches us that life is not about reaching a final goal but about the constant movement, about the small actions of daily life that, when done with intention and presence, become sacred. Living in flow is living in harmony with the rhythm of the universe, dancing to the sound of music that is always playing, and that we only need to learn to listen to. And as this journey unfolds, spiritual growth manifests in every aspect of our lives. We become more compassionate, more present, more open to the mystery of existence. Flow invites us to live more deeply, to connect with our essence, and to feel the pulse of life in every detail. It is a journey that never ends, for each moment offers us a new opportunity to discover ourselves, to reinvent ourselves, and to connect with the whole. Flow is, ultimately, a return to who we are in our essence, a vibrant expression of life that transforms and seeks always tirelessly to expand. If you felt a connection with these ideas, if something within you resonated upon hearing about the beauty of living in flow, I encourage you to experience this state. Start small. Find an activity that brings you joy, something that makes time seem to dissolve. Immerse yourself in it, let yourself be carried away and feel what it is like to be fully present. Each moment can be a chance to rediscover yourself, to connect with something greater. If this video brought you any inspiration or clarity, I ask that you like and share it with those you believe may also benefit from this message. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that we can continue this journey together, exploring themes that enrich our inner lives and bring us closer to our true selves. Also, leave your experiences with flow in the comments. Each story is a point of light that connects us. Share what makes you feel this deep connection with the present. Together we can learn from one another, expand our understanding, and continue to grow one step at a time toward a full and conscious life.